Welcome to a brand new show from the team at Side Questing and Friends. This is the Comic Quest. Hello and welcome to the Comic Quest. I am Dali Demofsky, joining me, J.J. Holder. And for the first time, or maybe the first time in a long time, I think you've been on the Side Quest in the past, Jonah Gregory.
Hello, I'm here.
Gooler, yeah. How are you, Jonah? Mr. Inks and Issues over here himself. How you doing, my friend?
Doing well. You probably know we haven't had the ability to record our show in a while. But I have the blessing of Kieran, my co-host, to be doing a different podcast right now.
Thank goodness. Hey, I was on an episode of Inks and Issues once.
Yes,
so.
That's
true. We talked about the Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant book,
yeah. No, he's moved from New Zealand to Canada and now back to New Zealand. So recording wasn't really an option for a long time. So we do plan on bringing it back at some point. Just it's going to be a little bit.
Excellent. Well, we're it's awesome to have you on. Jonah and I, JJ and I. There's a lot of J's on this and this podcast. JJ and I have been doing exactly. Dalibor the jerk. We've been doing comics on the Side Quest for a while now. And first and foremost, I want to say thank you to the musical creation by Zero the Prototype. That was his wonderful intro music. You find him over in the Discord and all their fun stuff there.
Yes, I was grooving to it.
Yes, we were all grooving in the background there. Again, you can find us sidequesting.com, sidequesting TV on YouTube and Twitch. Hop into the Discord. And Jonah, before we jump, where can we find you whenever we can find you?
I mostly hang out on Blue Sky right now, which is in the picture right here. It's a real Jonah at bluesky.social.
Lovely. We decided let's get into the old comic biz by reviewing them. No, we've obviously talked about comics in the past. We reviewed them on the podcast. And the live stream and the shows, and we thought let's do a separate podcast, a monthly podcast, looking at those solicitations. We're going to start monthly and kind of see where things take us, see how it goes, and hopefully have a good time doing it. Again, if you really want to help us out over at Side Questing, there's going to be in the Side Questing feed for a minute until I actually manage to spit it out into its own feed. But sidequesting.com, all whatever, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your grandmother, grandfather, tell your uncle, your aunt, and tell the comic shop owner that we're talking comics, because that's what we're going to do today. We're talking comic books. We got some awesome comics that have been sent to us to review, thankfully, because I'm broke. So I've been looking forward to this, and I'm constantly jealous of Jonah and JJ because they're always talking cool comic stuff. JJ always shows up in the Side Questing Discord with some of the coolest books. He's like, I just got this. This is the old version of this, but this is the new version of this. And I just got the better version of this. And I'm like, I just want all of these. But we are reading some really cool things. So the way we're going to try this first episode.
Dali, real quick. Hot tip for you. Use your local library. That's where I get a lot of my stuff these days.
Fantastic. That is actually an awesome tip. We want to give a big shout out. There are comic book shops. You can go buy this stuff. Always support creators. Another great way to support creators is actually to go to your library, because comic book publishers and creators and even the indies, they go to put their stuff in libraries. Whether you go and get the physical books, check them out, or you hop into your library's app. A lot of times you can get the digital versions of it, and that's what I started doing actually with a lot of the DC stuff. JJ mentioned it before.
Hoopla and stuff like that.
Baby.
Yeah, baby.
And the other cool thing, which I've actually had happen a couple times now, I wanted a book, they didn't have it, and they have a form on most library websites where you can say, hey, can you get this book for me? And they did. They've done it twice for me now, which is really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm planning on and first I was going to sell a lot of there you go. Yeah. Now it's like moody, spooky.
Ooh,
time.
Spooky.
So Jonah was telling us in the pre-show that he's in his office and there's a motion sensor. And so he has to get up every so often. Otherwise it will think he's dead.
Yes. Oh, I'm the
Good
last one here. Most people are gone in my office. This
We're
I'm at a satellite branch, so most people are out of here by like 4:30. But I run the help desk. I'm the last one out usually for my team.
We're unfortunately keeping him behind, but
Yeah, it's all
well,
right.
we're the way we're gonna do it is this. We're gonna we've all kind of taken a few comics from some of these solicitations that we've gotten, and we're just gonna spend some time talking about it, and kind of go through what we liked or didn't like about the comic, and then we'll leave a few minutes for kind of cross conversation, and the next person will go with their comics and go forward. And then in the end of the show, we're all going to share some of the stuff that we are currently reading, and it could be from any time. It could be new, it could be old, it could be something that we're looking forward to, but we want to try to keep it to comic books and keep this sort of timely, so this is the month, this is the issue of the month, and we're not going to get into comic book news because there's plenty of stuff comic to that. We want to talk the actual comics, and I want to start with JJ
Oh.
first because JJ he was trying to get away from me. JJ in previous episodes of Side Quest, JJ has been excited to do all the Godzilla stuff, as we should be. Godzilla is really cool. But there wasn't a whole ton of Godzilla stuff to do this time. And instead, JJ chose some really cool books to check out. And the first one, this is an eclectic mix, totally an eclectic mix from what I would have seen at some comics. So while this loads up, the very first one is called More Weight.
More weight. We're gonna start with the big dog. Honestly.
Yeah. All right.
Uh,
We'll get this image up here.
More weight by Ben Wiki.
Mm.
This is a dense. This is a dense book. It is 500 plus pages.
Ooh.
It is a relatively solid historical telling of the Salem witch trials.
Mm.
Um, very gory. When I say gory, I mean the artist, not graphic. Style of art going on here, and it follows mostly the story of what is it, Corey Giles, um through his time during the Salem witch trials. The title More Weight comes from the fact that he
Oh, it just
was
clicked.
he's the one that was sentenced to, he wouldn't give he wouldn't say if he was guilty or innocent. He was standing mute. So in order to hold someone at trial back in these days, they had to give their like, are you guilty or innocent? If you it's, if you and if you didn't, they, like, couldn't hold a trial on you. But if you did give a guilty or innocent, if you were found guilty, your assets and estates would go to the government. Uh, so when they were trying to get him to say one way or the other, the easiest way to do
Mm.
that was to just load a bunch of rocks on you until you gave in. And so that's the title is More Weight, because
Wow.
infamously those were like his last words were more weight. He just kept saying more weight. Wouldn't say guilty, wouldn't say innocent, would just keep saying more weight. So yeah, so this is actually like a really dense like it's not breezy, it's not particularly happy, but it's like Salem witch trial stuff is a hard maze to navigate. There's a lot of nonsense out there. There's a lot of truth. There's a lot of folklore. There's a lot of everything. And this does a really good job at just sort of parsing it out into like like it focuses on sort of like a singular character and what happens throughout there. It does have an interesting thing where, well, every few chapters or so, it'll pop between it'll pop to uh
Hmm.
Nathaniel Hawthorne and Longfellow, Henry Longfellow, both famous authors and poets and historians of the time of, like, of their time in Salem, because uh, Hawthorne is one of directly related to them. So it also deals heavily with the people sort of in the aftermath coming to terms with what happened, and the history that it's sort of bestowed upon Salem, for something that really only happened for a little over a year. Like the Salem witch trials only lasted for like a year and a couple of months, but it has a long-standing uh, effect in even like American crime, crime. um, and the last chapter really just sort of goes through witches in sort of like in a sort of like a historical sense, and goes through like how this like transformed Salem, and like how witches are seen today. About like there's a statue of Bewitched in the middle of this area and stuff, and how real witches sort of see this stuff these days and stuff. It's a really salt, like if you want to know uh what happened during this without going through history books or something, it's a really good
Hmm.
way of doing it. Our uh review codes also copies also came with a teacher's guide. So like they
Oh,
really
Cool.
they actually expect you to like maybe get this for your classroom and kind of go over it, which it would work if you want to go over sort of this time frame. It's fascinating. It's a cool teacher's guide too. It was fun to dig through that. So yeah, this is
cool.
yeah, it's a long read. I could see a lot of people sort of maybe being put off by the fact that it kind of is a little bit maybe too long, but I think it's worth its the time, and I think the art in it's pretty great too. There's there's Longfellow and Hawthorne, but yeah. So
Excellent. This is going to be something that I think my daughter's going to really get
oh
really
yeah,
into
yeah,
witches right now. So
yeah.
yeah,
No, this would be perfect for her then. Yeah.
cool, cool, cool. JJ, JJ, gosh almighty. Jonah, are you into like the witchy type stuff?
You know, I am into horror stuff.
Okay.
I've written it
Yeah.
and am an enjoyer of
And,
it.
Love it.
This looks pretty cool. I didn't realize until earlier when I said, "Oh, it just clicked," that that this was not just some random like book, that it's actually, based
yeah.
on or what
No,
actually happened, and
there's
Mm,
that made me way more
yeah.
interested once you said that.
Yeah, because keep in mind, there's no like actual like witchcraft, like what you would think
Right.
horror witchcraft going on in this. This is There are some sort of thematically like
That's
dream
just the
sequences
horrors
and
of
stuff,
man.
but yeah, yeah, man is the true witch.
Just remember, every witch they burned was just a lady that
Yeah,
they were accusing, not an
yeah,
actual witch.
yeah, mostly just a bunch of teenagers
Hmm.
being dicks.
Speaking of horror, you've also been reviewing something else that's dark, potentially a Dark Knight,
The
but
darkest of
the
nights.
dark, but a different take on the Dark Knight potentially.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I mean, listen, this is a weird one because this is the artist's edition of Batman Year One. So Dave, oh, how do you pronounce his name? Mazzucchelli, I think.
Mazzucchelli.
Yeah, Dave Mazzucchelli, who was the artist of Year One with Frank Miller.
Hmm.
Uh, he's also the artist of Born Again. So two of the most like iconic '80s re-envisionings of the characters. This is a beautiful book. Year One
Wow.
is absolutely one of the gold standards when it comes to Batman stories. Um, and I think in terms of the Frank Miller Batman stories, I do like this one more than Dark Knight Returns.
Seconded.
Mm.
Yeah, I think this is a
Yeah,
better book. Holds up
yeah,
a lot better, at
the
least.
whole yeah for sure. And it also did far less to writers' brains when it came to Batman, because the success of Dark Knight really sort of fried a lot of artists' brains when it came to writing
Hmm.
Batman, and everyone's just trying to chase that high. This one definitely, Year One definitely feels more
Mm.
like a Batman book. So, if anyone who hasn't read Year One, this is exactly what's advertised on the box is what you get. It's Batman's first year as the Dark Knight, trying to figure it out early on. It's him, not Batman yet. He's like he's maybe not being particularly politically correct in his attempts at
Yes.
becoming a crime fighter
Mm.
in the early stages, but eventually he figures out the bat thing, and you just but that's not what this is about. You're not really getting this to read it as
Mm.
Batman year one. This is really if you've already read Batman year one, and you can sort of get down to the brass tacks of the art when it comes to it. I mean, the whole book is presented here. It's just without any of the like final fine tuning of it. Like everything's here. It's like it's essentially the storyboards. Like when you get past this stuff, you're gonna get to the actual pages where it's like the tape is still on the boards and stuff. Like you can see right
Oh
here.
wow, I love
Yeah,
that stuff.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
dude.
like, so like this is absolutely stunning to look at Mazzucchelli's art without any sort of like anybody else's hand touching it yet. This
Yeah,
is the core of it. Like it's a beautiful book. It's uh, I don't know, just seeing some of these stuff. I love seeing this stuff stripped bare. It's always fun,
Mhm.
like going back and seeing stuff like Jack Kirby's art stripped bare before like
yeah.
Inkers took over, or just like
Makes you really appreciate the line work for
the
sure.
line work for sure, and like the line work. Look, there's Mickey Mouse right there.
Yeah.
He also uses a Mickey Mouse phone a couple of times throughout the story too, which is great.
Love it.
Just a great terrible character who's just super into Mickey Mouse for some reason.
Hilarious.
Yeah, uh, especially funny now that the like rival companies like
Mhm.
Right. Owns them.
uh, yeah. But yeah, no, this is an absolutely beautiful version of this book. I don't know. I think its actual physical edition is sort of oversized. I don't know the exact. I don't know if you have the email because I don't have it open. But it is an oversized thing, so it makes the art stand out a lot more.
It's
Um,
more true to the original art
yeah, exactly.
page
Like a
dimensions. Yeah,
page. Yeah,
that's sick. Yeah, that's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah. So you pay for the premium, but it's worth it
Right.
if this is like in your wheelhouse. So yeah, I highly recommend this for.
Just saying,
Yeah,
hey, we're 2 months away from Christmas, right?
we are.
People
Yeah.
What's
just for the
also kinda
Batman
cool is
fan.
right, this is, the Batman movie was out, and
Mhm.
it kinda it obviously is sort of a take on this, and to
Yep.
see this so raw, I think
Yeah.
is just so cool. Like, those are Sharpie I mean, those are, like, Copic markers, they're actually showing you
Yeah.
see the strokes of the
Yes, I was
marker
just
on
gonna
them,
I
say
love it.
that.
I
and
You
love it.
and,
Yeah.
see
like,
it.
for those of, like, Jonah, you obviously know this, for those of us as artists, we're just like, that is magic to us, like, seeing this. So, yeah, great, cool. I wanna buy this ASAP.
Yeah. It's stunning. So big. Yeah.
Yeah. I have a lot of fond memories and feelings towards that book in general, just because it was like one of the things that got me back into comics when I was an adult, from when I was a kid and hadn't read for a few years. And it's also the first episode of my other show. We reviewed
Mm.
it. So
Oh yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's got some good places. But
So
yeah,
is
no, I'm psyched to I need
yeah.
to get a copy of this, but
It is.
I'm sure it's gonna
I just looked it up. It is 14. It is 14 by 21. So it's a big boy.
whoa, okay.
Yeah. So there
Coffee
you go.
table edition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. And this the original book came out in '86. So Tim Burton Batman wasn't even out yet.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many Batman things in the movies and shows and stuff have they like taken
Just
inspiration
stolen
from this?
straight from this. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much all of them.
Yeah.
And you've got one more book, that's decidedly not dark, let's just say.
I
The
mean,
maybe, actually could be kinda considered, yeah.
thematically dark because it is a morality tale at the end of the day of not getting caught up in consumerism really it's
Classic story, yep.
classic story. Obviously, when it's with such story, Disney picks up on it and makes a cartoon, half of a cartoon, and a ride out of it. But this is the Wind in the Willows, baby. by David Peterson. It is the original presented in its entirety. Wind of the Willows by Kenneth Grahame, but drawn by David Peterson, who is the artist for Mouse
Mm.
Guard, which is an absolutely phenomenal comic book series. So yeah, this is just the novel with his art, and he also like you know uh, sort of framed it and everything. Like it's
Mhm.
like he's the one that sort of like set up its layouts and everything. So Wind in the Willows is great. I love Wind in the Willows. Always have. It's a great children's book. And then you just pepper it with this absolutely phenomenal art. It's not all color; most of it's black and white,
Mm.
Okay.
which is still beautiful. His black and white stuff is right there. Uh, it's there's a lot of fine details in all of his black and white art. Because it's all just sort of weird, outdoorsy, but also turn of the century. Not even our century,
Mm.
you know. Because
Turn of a century.
turn of
There you
a century, like the crux of the story is Mr. Toad gets obsessed with everything really fast and is kind of a jackass, uh and so it just kind of drives everybody crazy. So he's like super into horse-drawn buggies right now, and then like a car zips by and it scares his horse and tips over his cart, and now he's obsessed with cars.
Mm.
And like and all of his friends are just like sick of his nonsense. He's like constantly crashing cars. I think by the time he's like it gets to a point where he's like crashed like 10 cars and they're like, dude, we gotta stop you, man. And and it's just, yeah, and I mean that's eventually he ends up in jail, and he's there's a lot to take in here. It's not like the Disney adaptation where he gets so obsessed with cars that he gets hit by a train and dies and goes to hell.
I was gonna
Uh,
ask. I'm like, I don't think I've ever read the original book. Does he go to
uh
hell?
no, actually,
Oh,
he
shame.
eventually figures out that he is just a jackass and is really just kind of caught up in too much of the nonsense and mellows out, and all of his friends are happy now. But it takes a rather significant adventure of him breaking out of
Mm.
prison and getting involved with like a weasel gang and stuff. It's cool. It's a good book.
Yeah.
He almost gets shotgunned by a weasel at some point. It's great. It's great. I love Winter of the Wells, and this art is beautiful.
It is very
David
cool.
Peterson does a phenomenal
Mm.
job on this, and this is a reprinting of an edition that came out in 2016.
Okay.
So this is the first time it's been in reprint in basically a decade. And
Look at
if
that.
you've never read Wind in the Willows before, uh, get this. If you have a kid, this is a great book for a kid. Wind in the Willows. It's all-time childhood classic, really. This is like the version as far as I'm concerned now. So go for it.
I've never read it. I'm so excited. I'm so
Yeah, I
Read
was
it.
gonna say
excited.
Read
Yeah.
it. You guys
I'm
have
gonna
the
have
same
to.
access I do.
Yeah.
Read
Yep.
it.
Will do. Will
I have
do.
no excuse now.
Well, awesome, awesome. That's fantastic, JJ. Thank you for sharing those three books. We're gonna move on to Jonah, who has
Hey.
a book that he has been reading here.
Yeah. So I read Night Watcher, which is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles book set in the IDW version. So for those not familiar, uh, the IDW version is its own take on the Turtles, that basically starts over at the beginning and takes it totally different places sometimes than other versions have. It's a really good version of their story. Um, so the character Nightwatcher was created for the 2007 movie. It's who Raphael was dressing up as when he was out fighting crime to hide his identity. So they wanted to like take that concept and bring it into the IDW one. So they did change things quite a bit from that version. So in this one, there's a fifth turtle, Jenica. I think I'm saying that right.
Yes.
Um, Foot Clan person who eventually got a blood transfusion from Leonardo and was mutated into a turtle. But then later there was a mutagen bomb that some terrorists set off, and a huge portion of the population of New York got turned, or I don't know how huge, but a significant
It
number
was
of people got,
significant, yeah.
yeah, got changed into mutants of all different animals. And for a while, they're sectioned off into their own area in New York with a wall around it and all that fun stuff. And then at the time of this is after they're starting to reintegrate. Oh, there go my lights again. Um, so um, they've been starting to reintegrate into the normal
Mm.
population, but of course there's a lot of issues because you know how humans are. So unfortunately, they're met with a lot of prejudice and people harassing them and stuff. So Jenica takes on the role of Night Watcher in this
Mm.
version to basically fight for the little guy now that all this other stuff is going down. And it basically tells the story of when she first like gets the suit, which isn't just a suit; it's actually like a technological like AI thing. Like it's got its own brain, but it doesn't currently like it's like a little kid is how they describe it. Like it's almost like a newborn. So she's using it to teach it how to basically be a hero. So it starts with a some different like little vignette stories, like each the first couple issues of her just like doing the normal fighting crime stuff and helping people out. It does a lot of commentary on stuff that's very relevant in our world right now, with the politics, especially of the U.S. right now. Um, but you know, it's kind of like the X-Men where it's like, but it's mutants, so we can use this as an allegory. And they literally are just called mutants because that's what they're called in Mutant Turtles, obviously. But then it kind of takes a turn and kind of goes into a more serious storyline of her trying to basically track down like who's like doing this organized crime. Why are there some animal people that are helping this like very corrupt mayor that's clearly involved in all these like illegal shenanigans revolving around them, but he's kind of untouchable at first because you know he's built up this whole group behind him that's both the human side and like animals that he kind of has under his thumb
Mm.
because they don't have a lot of choice. One of the villains is actually a bear that was always a bear, but he got mutated to having like the human elements of the intelligence and speaking and all that stuff. And he's a really cool character. He's not in it a ton, but he kind of provides like the commentary of like why someone pushed to that edge or someone that was basically he talks about how he was born into the situation where he's just being in a zoo to be observed his entire life and that's all he ever knew, and then all of a sudden he was free of that. And like so obviously there's he has a lot of his own motivation. So he's a really cool character, but he's
Mm.
like I said, he's not in it a lot, but he's a really good like secondary villain to the main guy. But yeah, it's like it's a pretty quick read. It's only I don't know how many issues are encompassed in that one volume.
I think
It was
it's
like
7.
160 pages. Yeah, so
Because
it's like
yeah,
7 issues worth.
yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool. Like, because I
Mm.
didn't know that character very well, because I'm, you know, I've read the first several volumes of the IDW run, but it's one I'm always meant to go back to and like catch all the way up on. I just have not gotten around to it. So um, I was like, okay, I know this character exists. I just didn't know a lot about her. So I actually like dug in a little bit, like, okay, what's her deal? I knew she was a human first and not a turtle first, like the actual turtles are. And this doesn't really dig in too much onto like why the turtles and stuff aren't currently here, but that is like
Yeah.
the initial setup. They're off doing their own thing, so she's kind of left on her own.
Yeah.
Um, so, and then yeah, and then the armor, like as it's gaining more like sentience, it
Mm.
starts questioning like why are we doing this? So it's got a lot of cool like twists and turns
Mm.
in the plot, but it's a very like personal story at the same time of her journey of basically trying to find her place in this new world where mutants and humans are trying to exist in the same city now.
Yeah. Yeah.
but All the IDW Turtle stuff I've read has been great. It's a pretty easy recommend if you like their stuff. And the Night Watcher character, I like the design. It's a cool suit. It looks really cool in the battle scenes. It gets to like do cool powering up stuff as like the battles get more intense as the story goes. And yeah, it was a fun time. Like easy recommend from me.
Excellent.
Yeah,
I love how the turtles, the actual turtle stuff is a level of seriousness that like transcends, other things.
Yeah.
So cool.
A couple of months ago,
Mm.
I reviewed the Mutation Nation
Mm.
trade that they put out, which
Mhm.
takes place kind of during this same time frame. It's like immediately after the Armageddon game stuff, so it's like but it follows Raphael in his
Mm.
Mm.
what he's doing, why he's not around, and what he's doing with his weird pet dinosaur, and spoiler alert, Splinter's been dead for a while at this point. So all the turtles have sort of broken away from one another for a little bit. So yeah. I
Excellent.
haven't. Yeah, I only read the first issue of Night Watcher, so
Hmm.
I actually have to dip into it.
I love this take on the turtles. I'm definitely going to check this out.
I like the IDW run; it's been
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really cool. And the art's always been fantastic.
Yeah.
I don't know if I mentioned the writer Junie Ba. I don't know if I'm
Mm.
familiar with any of their other work, but they nailed it on this one. So I'm gonna have to look up more of their stuff.
Yeah.
Mm. Um, I have been reviewing a couple books as well. It is spooky season, so I figured let me hop into one of these spooky season books. This one actually came out. I think this one is actually really recent as well, so it came out at the perfect time. And I figured I'm going to take a look at it. I love exorcism stuff. I love that spooky things, and so when the exorcism at 1600 pen came into my potential view, I thought let me check this out because it's like somewhat politics with obviously 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and there's an exorcism involved. So I thought this is a really interesting idea for a book, right? So let's see where this goes. This is it's top shelf, I believe. It is written by it's Hannah Rose May and Vanessa Del Rey. And what's interesting about this book is that there are, and I'm going to kind of get through here. I get through a couple of these things. So it starts off on inauguration day for the new president. All right. Kind of sets up, there's like aspects of it where it sets up that she's liked by modern climate, right? She's liked by some people, really disliked by other people. Social media plays a big input into this. Same with she has a husband and two children, and the children are going through high school, and they're going, now that they've moved into DC, they're going to the Catholic school. There's more eyes on them than normal. So yeah, it kind of starts off on inauguration day, and the president has to get right into solving the issues of the day, right? Obviously, you have like climate change is being discussed. There's rogue senators running around. They even have the Havana syndrome is included in this. So they're trying to throw a lot into this, right? There's social unrest. Really, all the big level political issues that we have today are the the things that you see. So they kind of circle around this book, but they're sort of the periphery because the title is The Exorcism at 1600 pen. So towards the end of this kind of first chapter that's in this collection, there is some crazy stuff starting to happen, right? So it ties into the fact that the kids are going to Catholic school. There's all these social things happening. What's at the cause of all these things? I don't want to get into like too much of how spoilers, because there are a lot of spoilers in this. But from a like story like pacing, it feels like an episode of 24 with like spiritual exorcism, Vatican level issues that are thrown around, and also climate change and the Oval Office. It's a wild combination, and I really kind of dug it from that standpoint because it actually was a really compelling lead. I wanted to find out what happens to these characters, which of these characters is actually going through stuff, which of these are not, because there's sort of like there are sort of red herrings in this. There's the Havana syndrome, which is driving folks crazy. And then there's like actual, devil, demonic stuff that's happening. What's real? What's not? What are people actually coming across? Right. So, like everyone's dealing with a lot of stuff. It does sort of revolve around, like, it's sort of split in half. There's the stuff that the president has to focus on, and then the stuff that her kids have to focus on. And I found both them to be intriguing for like different things. The kid stuff, obviously, like I said, a lot of social media, a lot of dealing with the stuff that kids deal with in high school. But they really kind of brought it up to more of an adult level reading aspect and content wise. And then you get to, or subject matter wise, then you get to the presidential stuff, which is really, like I said, if you've watched 24, if you've watched West Wing, this is directly out of there. But I will say one thing, it does sort of really lead into the narrative of everything being like top level, surface skimming political issues. Like I said, climate change and terrorism, and the very stuff that you see on TV is like in broad, net casting is here. So it doesn't really go too deep into it. And there's not a lot of nuance in the book, but I don't think you need to, because they're, at least in this plot, because they're throwing a lot at you. But I think the fact that it does focus on the family aspect, you do start to leave some of this bigger stuff off to the side. But then you ask yourself, like midway through, are some of these things linked? Like what's actually happening? Are some of these people doing certain things? So there's a little level of mystery and intrigue in this. I actually really like the art. There's a cool looseness to this art. It looks like it looks and feels like you can see the characters here, but there are aspects where some of the folks are really detailed, some of the clothing's really detailed, and you have like a dude who's just like 2 feet away from the president. He's just a character in the background, so they just kind of block his face out, right? So, really,
it's got a
really,
little sketchy feel to it, which makes it look really cool.
Yeah, there are some sketches in here that look like they're just like charcoal doodles on paper. Like this one is really great because it doesn't feel like a traditionally inked page. Yes, they're doing certain things with like sketching software, but you really do have them sketching in the shading and stuff. Anyways, it is I highly recommend it for this time of year, especially with like the climate right now, but it is a good, compelling story.
This page right here looks like a courtroom sketch.
Yeah, that's what I love.
And I mean that as a positive. I'm not.
Great way to describe it, JJ. Great way to describe it. Yeah, that whole kind of courtroom aesthetic for a lot of this stuff really, really works, because you see the president's giving her like a press conference, and then on the blizzard, like this whole climate change stuff, and then all of a sudden people, there's just the folks in the background.
To let you know they're humans.
But then they start asking questions, and it's really, really nicely done. And they're using these really broken, not the traditional kind of squares, that we see. They are using the broken stuff because they're actually trying to lead you visually. As the designer side of me understands, this is triangular because they want to lead you down to here, this viewpoint, right? Like this area here, her hand on this book. Very minor detail. They don't get back to it, but there's actually some depth as to how, some of the things that it goes into. So yeah, I enjoyed the book. Definitely worth checking out for this, especially for this time of year. And it's they call it Mike. It's the West Wing and Flanagan's The Haunting of series. It has a little bit of vibes of both, but again, I loved the just a mix of the family stuff and the political stuff. I think it was just a nice balance of both. So yeah, definitely
sick cover.
Yeah, for sure. Look at this is like the whole, I hate to bring it up, but it's like there's the devil's faces in the clouds type of thing, and it's like, well, maybe it is in this case. I think it might actually be 1600 pen. And I reviewed one more book, and that was actually. I went from like sort of modern-ish stuff to sci-fi, and I'm really big into art. And when I see art in a book and kind of a unique style, I'm immediately drawn to it. No pun intended. But the one that I saw now is the one that I read next was Bridge Planet 9, and it is you see here, this is essentially what the art in the book looks like. It is um, uh, these these thieves, these four thieves get together. They find out there's sort of this abandoned colony planet, and they want to loot it. There's a great big treasure type of thing on there, as thieves and pirates want to do. So they go up there, and obviously, hey, it's not as easy as it seems. Things kind of go off base pretty quickly because there's a lot of I don't want to say intrigue, but there's a lot of stuff that comes into play as a much bigger secret to this abandoned base. So I like that kind of sci-fi. I will say one thing: it's not like the most original like plot, like that's the most original like story, I should say, or general plot, but the nuances that get you from point A to point B to point C, I think are actually really interesting. And part of that, and I think maybe it's because of the characters that that were introduced to. So you get the four crewmates, and you find out their little stories as they're on the way to the planet. It has a little bit of an alien feel, like at the beginning of a good alien movie where you're starting to meet the crew right away, or
There's space truckers coming in for a
exactly,
heist.
space truckers coming in for a heist, exactly. So, and they're taking this freighter there, right? But there's all the characters. You get the little backstories. You kind of saw in the video the little floating orb. Like one of the dudes likes to in a fresh way, and I loved this art. There are
looks
just
cool.
the thick line work and just a lot of black and white. It's just contrasting colors. This is the top shelf one. A lot of contrasting colors. Yeah, it's a good sci-fi read, and it's a longer book as well. It's not a quick read, even though there's the artwork the pages are kind of big and blocky, but a lot is done in storytelling with the actual images and the contrast, like just the black and white. Like you see some of the pages in this that are also in this video. They will highlight areas and black out everything else, or they'll highly detail certain things like a little bit more than they will other parts or like the background stuff. So they do a really nice job of getting your your attention to kind of focus on certain things. So yeah, great. Love the art style. It's like this tight looseness that I really dig, and it's a fun space trucker heist story, and you can never go wrong with those. So yeah, Bridge Planet 9. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Yeah, looks cool.
So with that said, we got a couple minutes here. I figured let's just quickly go over some of the things that we have been reading outside of this. Could be old, could be new. I talked about it. And since we started with JJ last time, let's start with Jonah this time.
All right.
Jonah, you mentioned something that you've been reading that was really cool.
Oh yeah. So I haven't gotten super far yet, but what I've read has been great, and it's Junji Ito's Frankenstein. So it's his interpretation of the original book. Doesn't look like he cared what the movies did because they're not the same thing. So if you're familiar with Junji Ito's very detailed, very haunting artwork, it's just fits that story so well. It even starts with the prologue from the book where they're like chasing down the monster through Antarctica, and they randomly find Victor Frankenstein sitting, on this ice floe, and they're like, "Wow, if we hadn't happened to come through at this exact time, you probably would have froze to death." So they bring him on board, and then it's like him going, "Let me tell you the story of how I got here," because they also saw a huge guy go by earlier that day. Which,
and then he loses it.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm a little ways into it already, and just this art it's so fitting for like the story. It really brings it to life. Like I just grabbed it because I'm like, anything Junji Ito. Like I read Uzumaki several years ago for the other podcast, and that's what hooked me. I think before that I had only read what is that, the Fault, the
Amagari
one.
Fault.
Yeah, that one, the famous this is my hole.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this one is really cool. Like I said, I'm not super far into it, but they're usually pretty fast. They're like thick books when you get them, but they always move so fast. All
Yeah.
his books are that way.
Mm.
And then the one other thing which I just remembered that I was gonna bring up, so I didn't even. I'm gonna blindside you with this one.
Yeah. Ooh.
Uh,
Okay.
there's a book I read about a month ago called Into the Unbeing. And
Ooh.
it was the first volume that I don't know that anything else is out. Maybe
Mm.
single issues. I haven't dug back in, but it's essentially set in this kind of post-climate disaster world. There's these scientists that are in Australia, and this weird thing pops up on their instruments, so they go check it out, and they find this huge cave, but it looks like the mouth of a gigantic humanoid being.
Hmm.
Oh,
And
sick.
most of the book is them exploring inside this. And of course, as soon as they go in, it's like, oh, these rocks look like teeth. And it's like, oh,
Uh-oh.
wait, this. So, yeah, it's like the more they explore it, the more
Mhm.
obvious it is that this is some weird creature. But why is it here? And how did we never see it before? And why is it already a corpse? And, there's all these unanswered questions. And volume one does not answer any of those
Mm.
questions.
Hell yeah.
But it does set up some, like, it's one of those things where you kind of dislike all the characters by design because they're all not great people. But it's okay because it's like, they're obviously not all going to make it out of this alive. So
Oh, geez.
they get to a certain point where things are clearly starting to affect their thought processes too, where they're like, well,
Mm.
we can't turn back at this point, we just got to keep going deeper. And
Hmm.
you got the one person being like, wait, what, why? What are you talking about? But of course they do, and it just gets weirder as it goes, and that's what I appreciated about it. Like, it's not one that's going to be an easy to jump into book, but the art is
Mm.
really, well, it's spooky again, sorry.
There we go.
But yeah, it's visually very interesting.
Cool.
It's got its own style, and it definitely is one of those. It was weird enough that I wanted to read more, and that one's by Zach Thompson, by the way,
Okay.
so
Okay.
might
Cool.
be worth checking that one out.
Sweet. Cool. JJ, what have you been reading?
I'm caught up on Amazing Spider-Man. It's terrible.
Nice. Oh.
Norman Osborn is Spider-Man, and he was able to chump out like an entire team of spider
Mhm.
people without
Mhm.
having any actual superpowers. It
Mm,
sucks. I'm mad. It's nobody hates Spider-Man more than
Mm.
Marvel. Uh, I've caught up on Absolute, DC's
Oh, yeah,
Absolute
nice.
stuff. That's where the money is.
mm.
Put all your cash into Absolute Comics. They are currently probably the best superhero comics on the market. Batman in particular. And we're heading towards some big stuff. They just introduced Absolute Lex Luthor,
Oh,
so things are going to get real soon. The Justice League in this universe is the bad guys, by the way. So,
Mm.
oh, okay.
and it's led by the Joker, who is not funny in any way, shape, or form.
He's
But
wearing
like,
babies as a suit, right? That's
yeah,
that's one of the
yeah,
few things I know about it.
yeah, yeah. That's all of the people say that it's so weird. He never laughs. So it's uh, but I guess the real thing to talk about book wise that I recently read that I absolutely fell in love with was Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees.
Yeah, you mentioned that. Yeah, yeah.
It's they describe it as Dexter meets the busy world of Richard
Ooh.
Scarry, uh,
Ooh.
Okay.
because it is a little small town. Everybody's an anthropomorphic animal, like cute designs. Like the main character is a little cute teddy bear looking character. The hook of the book
Ah.
is the main character. She is a serial killer
Mm,
who does not kill in her town. She goes to the big city and kills people that won't be missed, kind of
Mm.
thing. That whole thing to get it out of her system. Back in her hometown, she is a functioning, popular member of society. And then, for the first time ever, a murder happens in their town,
Mm.
and that pisses her off because it's like, well, that gets eyes on me now, so I need to figure out how is
Sure.
happening. And
Sure.
that's sort of the rest of the most of the story is her trying to figure it out while the cops are trying to figure it out, and obviously there are clues leading to her and just this cat and mouse game and the resolution of that, and it is fantastic. It's probably one of my favorite books of the year that I've read. The trade just came out, and the new series, there's a sequel series that just recently started. I think they're on issue 2 or 3 right now, called Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, Rite of Spring. So that's just starting, but yeah, highly recommend. It is fantastic, and it's got great art. It is gory. I will keep that in mind. There is a significant amount of blood. So
Cool.
yeah.
For my book, I love reading biographies in comic format, and I tend to go for people that I know a little bit about rather than people that I know a ton about. And one person that I knew a little bit about, but I knew their accomplishments, was John Lewis. The civil rights leader turned, congressional superstar, I guess you could say. And John Lewis, it was rest in peace, was a phenomenal individual, and was a big part of the civil rights movement, back in the 60s and even before that, even from a teenager onward, always been a leader. And on a whim, like a couple years ago, I picked up the first issue of March, the March books. There's 3 of the books, and I just finished March book 3. I've been kind of reading one per year. I've been trying not to go too fast. You can, though. You can read these. You can binge all these. They're that good, because the story is told from his perspective, but more so about the people around him that kind of helped turn him into the leader and the man that he was, and the folks that he owed a lot to, from his education and his drive towards helping others. So all these books are great. I'll share the screen here real quick because I had a little bit of the Google stuff in there, but just really fascinating books that tell his story. It kind of starts from, it's almost like a flashback. Like the first book starts by talking about a current bill or something that that he was going to do while he was in Congress. And then he says, well, it starts to flash back to when he was a youngster really getting involved for the first time. Because the book it starts off basically saying, you're going to have a hard time out there. He's like, yeah, you haven't seen anything. I know hardship. And let me tell you about hardship. And that's when it kind of gets into all the different stuff that he talks about, within the book. Just terrific. Loved the art. Each page is like a piece of art. Like, you see the pages here, but
it looks like charcoal.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just wonderful. John Lewis worked with Andrew Aiden and Nate Powell to kind of tell this story and get the artwork. But it's as if like someone took each of these pages and said, how can I tell the story on this page and make this page interesting and compelling, but also kind of feel like and look at this page specifically. Feel like if somebody just sat and doodled it at home by themselves, telling their story and had the artistic background. And I thought that was really cool. Like, each of these pages really it's almost like its own little story within a story. So yeah, the March books are great. I highly recommend them. John Lewis, obviously a fascinating human being, and there's 3 in the series. Definitely go out, pick them up if you can. I would buy them because they're great to have on your shelf, just to look over once in a while, pick it up and get inspired. Super inspiring for me, because I'll sit and read like 10, 15 pages, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm gonna go save the world right now. So,
Nice.
Well, first episode of the Comic Quest is complete. And I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I think this is a lot of fun. JJ in the beautiful comic cave that we have there.
Yeah.
Jonah apparently in the cave.
Yes.
As the lights keep going out, he's turning into the Batman is what's happening.
Yeah.
No, it's awesome to chat with you guys. We're gonna try to do this at once a month, if not more. Kind of take a look at the current solicitations and the stuff that's coming in. But I think some just awesome books that I'm hyped about diving into more. I mean, obviously we got these review copies, but some of the stuff I do want to own, like that Batman one, I gotta own that in the physical format. And
it's pretty sick looking.
TMNT, gotta own that in a physical format, like I grew up on Turtles. So awesome. Thank you guys. Thank you to the viewers. Thank you to the listeners when this goes out to that. Thank you. All the products in here that we talked about were sent to us to review, and we reviewed them, and those were our thoughts and not anybody else's thoughts, but we hope they're your thoughts of good, kind love towards us, because we had fun. Thank you, guys. We'll see you at SideQuesting.com, SideQuesting TV on YouTube and Twitch. Hop in our Discord, and that's it. Thank you to Zero for the musical stingers. We'll see you on the next episode of whatever we do.
Yes.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye.